Let it be known
And-
here at Novels and Nightcaps, we believe in climate change.
He's really self-actualized, or he's just in heavy denial right now.
What are you willing to sacrifice for humanity?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Novels and Nightcaps, the podcast where we read, drink, and ramble. I'm Nor,
And I'm Gabe.
and this week we're launching off into our next book, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Gabe, do you have your copy?
Yes, of course I do.
There we go.
Of course I do.
Good. But as always, before we get into the book, what are you drinking?
Well, I actually almost grabbed it during the intro to take a sip of it because it's utterly delicious and it's probably my favorite drink I've made so far. I made a bramble. So it's gin, it is lemon juice, and creme de mure. I wasn't able to find creme de mure, so I did this. I'm going to really gas myself up here because I'm really proud of it. I got, I think it's called Liquor 99, something like that. It was clear. It was a blackberry liqueur that was clear, and the drink didn't have the right coloring. So I got like some blackberries and infused it. It was a whole thing to be able to get this beautiful little color. If you can't see, well, I don't know what color it is because I'm really colorblind. I didn't think through that. Nor what color is this?
Yeah. I got you, man. It's clear and it bleeds into a red, very similar to my drink. Actually, it's a nice shade of red.
Yeah, and if you look at our Instagram, you can see a cute little photo I made of it because my garnishes have now sunken into the drink itself. But otherwise, it's quite delicious. Now, I made this specifically because of the dark colors, because a lot of my drinks so far haven't really had the darkness. And I wanted it to, except for, I guess an espresso martini is, the darkest possible thing. But I feel like Project Hail Mary has a lot of optimism. And so while I wanted to give that bright citrus, the like sunshine effect, because we're dealing with a lot of stars in this book, I also wanted to give the little like darkness of space that I guess blackberries really remind me of because there's black in the name. So, Nora, what are you drinking?
Yeah, no, I like that explanation. This time I actually got something other than mezcal. So,
we did it. We upgraded.
I upgraded. I got a bottle of gin and I made a cosmonaut. Now, this is a cheap man's version of the cosmonaut because I forgot to get orange liqueur. So instead I used...
You did... Wait, what did you use instead? I used
grenadine. Grenadine, completely different. Changes the taste profile. But it kind of fits this Andy Weir vibe. All his characters sort of have to make do with what they've got. It's very makeshift. It's very ragtag. So yeah,
adaptation,
gin,
man. Adaptation. That's really
right. We have gin, grapefruit juice, and grenadine. So
you had 2 out of 3 of the ingredients.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So you made just a completely different drink, is what you're telling me. You made not the cosmonaut whatsoever. That's really funny. That's good. There's a running theme once again. Where are you going to drink gin for the rest of this book? I guess we're doing 2 parts of this book for those who didn't understand the fact that we're going through the first half of the book with these chapters. So for the second one, are you also going to make a gin related beverage?
Maybe not. You'll just have
to watch and find out. Yeah, you have to watch and find out.
Oh, that's a blameless plug right there. Shameless plug.
So we are reading and talking about chapters 1 through 15 of Project Hail Mary, which is about an astronaut, Ryland Grace, who's really a scientist, who wakes up in the middle of a spaceship in the middle of space with no real memory of who he is, where he's from, and a giant robot arm that's trying to like shave him and, turn him over so he doesn't get bed sores. And the core of the book is really, discovering the mystery of why he's here, what he's doing, and will he survive? So I guess that's the like quintessential spoiler-free, example of what the book is about. That's the quick and dirty rundown. It very, very quickly turns into something a lot different, and it expands a lot more in a really interesting way that we'll get into in just a second. Now, I assume you didn't click on this video if you haven't read it. because we haven't even finished it. So far, I'd recommend it. I mean, Nor, what do you think?
I strongly recommend it. I know we were talking about this through text messages, and you were saying it's in your top 3 of the year.
Of the year,
And
of the
I
year. Yeah.
think,
There.
yeah. And I think, yeah, for me, it also falls in my top 3, weirdly enough. It's just so good. And we're going to talk about it for the next hour or so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so pumped. There's just so much here. And maybe it's because we just got finished with The Devils that left a lot to be desired, or at least I think we might have talked about it a little more than it really deserved. Not that it was awful, it just, it was a very surface level sort of book that we really dove into probably more than you needed to. But this feels like it deserves a lot of attention. And it's gotten a lot of attention online. I mean, it's constantly popping up in my feed, possibly because I looked it up a lot, but it's constantly there. So it makes it into a lot of people's top science fiction books, just in general. And so I think it's really good that we're getting to read this, getting to check it out. So that's our pitch. Go read Project Hail Mary. It's incredible and surprisingly moving, funny, makes you feel really smart as a reader. I don't know how, but it really does. It makes you feel smart. And Ryland Grace is a really entertaining protagonist to follow along with this as he sees this world, I guess the universe in such an interesting and humorous way. So go check it out. Go pick up the copy. Stop now if you haven't read it. Go read the first 15 chapters and come right back with us to jump back in. So,
And
any last
if
words?
you don't have the book yet, click our affiliate link down below.
Yeah, good plug.
You get the book
good
for the
plug.
same price at no extra cost, and it really helps us out.
It'll be in the show notes. Go get that affiliate link.
Yeah,
help us
down
out.
below.
This is our Hail Mary. Sorry.
Anyways, shameless plug aside, I think it's time we talk about Project Hail Mary. There's a lot to talk about, as you said. Is there any place you would like to start?
I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's really necessary to do a plot overview here because it's very simple, right? You have Ryland Grace wakes up in the spaceship. Throughout the course of the book, he is in the spaceship. He walks outside of the spaceship for a second, and then back in and then back out. But he's in the spaceship. That's the gist of that part. But then we constantly get these flashbacks. And that's really where I want to start digging in because Weir does this really cool thing. I mean, we see this a lot. We see flashbacks constantly in science fiction and fantasy. It's everywhere. And I'm not going to lie, for me, it's always something that I kind of dread. For those of you who don't know, I wrote a book, right? I finished a book. I included flashbacks, but it felt kind of like something I had to check off the list because it was like, oh, well, you got to show the past, right? And this doesn't feel that way at all. It feels integral to understanding the mystery. And the entire time, was on the edge of my seat searching for more clues and more information as to what Ryland Grace is doing there and why. Did you share that feeling, Nor, or was it like how did the flashback system work for you? Did you have a similar experience, or just what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think in a similar vein, right? I don't particularly like flashbacks. I'm not fond of them. Generally, it feels like checking off an item off a list, right? Um, and I think it tends to work better, at least in my experience, on movies and TV as opposed to books. In books, I try to skip those parts generally. Now, over the last year, as I've been reading Stormlight and other books that feature flashbacks more prominently as a sort of parallel storytelling, I've begun to see that they do work. I mean, if they definitely add to the story, and in Project Hail Mary, I feel like it actually it enhances the story, right? Especially as a big part of the plot is that Ryland is waking up from a coma. All his memories are essentially gone, and he's slowly recovering them. Um, and he does so in meaningful ways, right? After he recovers these memories after meaningful breakthroughs, after certain reminders, right? There's cues in the environment that bring those memories back, and we get a richer perspective on who this character is, why he's on this ship, and it actually adds to the stakes, I think. So I'm a big fan of the flashbacks here.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I particularly like about it is it's not outside of the book. Like it is first person flashbacks. He himself is experiencing the flashbacks and talks about the flashbacks. I think that really it sells it a lot for me because it doesn't feel like we're getting ripped out of the world into a new one, but it instead feels like we're going along with Grace as he discovers these things because they matter to him as a character, so they matter to us. And it really works in that way. Um, Now, I did want to ask because of the flashbacks, because of the coma part. The last book, my history background came in handy. It's not relevant whatsoever here, but your psychology background might come in handy here. So, do you know anything about like comas, about sleep, about if this sort of thing could happen? Is this pure fantasy? Like, what is the deal here? We know that Andy Weir is obviously like known for his, quote unquote scientific accuracy as much as you can in a science fiction story. But do you know how this kind of matches up?
Yeah, no, the idea of like a coma induced paralysis as a means of like space travel or to like account for space travel. I actually really like that idea. It's very much like speculative science fiction, I think. And a lot of this book is speculative science fiction, of course. Um, I'm not so sure it would actually work, but it does track, I think, that if we were to induce people in prolonged comas, like Ryland and his crewmates, rest in peace, um, there would be like significant brain damage, at least from
Hmm.
what I understand. But then again,
Okay.
sleep science isn't like, I'm a big fan of sleep science, but comas are uh, not within my realm. It's
I mean,
sort of
also
new
like I feel
territory.
like comas are not something that you can ethically, induce very often. So like you
Right? Yeah,
can't just go
we
do a
don't
bunch
tend
of
to do
studies.
that. Not
Yeah.
anymore.
Not anymore.
Not
So I mean, it
anymore.
tracks to you wouldn't say, okay, let's put this guy in a coma for like, how many was it, like 3 years, and then figure out what happens. So yeah,
Yeah. So
I
there's
okay,
this thing,
good to
right,
know.
called the code of ethics.
Pesky code of
Kind of stops us.
ethics,
I
which we
know.
have a whole team of characters in this book that loves to just completely ignore for the sake of humanity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That kind of naturally takes us into, I think, the flashback team, right? The only real characters besides Rocky and Grace that we get to interact with. It's led by what's her name? I don't have it off the top of my head, and I forgot to write it down.
Strat.
Strat, yeah, Strat. Now, Strat as a character is really intense in I think, a very logical way. It tracks given the circumstances that she's the type of person that would take up this role. I guess the biggest thing for me in the flashbacks was, did we buy that a teacher, right? That somebody like Grace would be put in this position? Did they do enough to justify it?
With every book, there's this suspension of disbelief that you have to kind of come into when you're reading, especially science fiction, especially fantasy. Um, there is a bit of resistance at first for me, or there was, because yeah, he is a school teacher, right? A middle school teacher, and all of a sudden he becomes the most important person in the world. There's a bit of an eye roll moment in there,
Mhm.
but I think Andy does a really good job at establishing that he's
Well,
not
first
just a
name. We're doing
scientist.
the first name. Is that
Yeah,
our is
yeah,
that
we're
our
on a
thing?
first name basis here.
Andy. Yeah.
um, well, he's a very casual guy. I feel like he would
He's a casual.
love
Yeah,
being
he's
called
chill.
Andy.
He's chill like that. Yeah, Andy's chill like that.
Chill, yeah, yeah. Mr. Weir, he does a
Yeah,
really good
Mister.
job at um, establishing the fact that Ryland is very, very smart. I mean, he wrote a paper, which was kind of a middle finger to academia, about how life doesn't necessarily need water uh, to exist, right? Which allegedly is wrong anyway. But who knows? So there's that initial resistance, but we're reading a science fiction book, and everything else is really airtight. I mean, Andy Weir does a really good job at keeping things very grounded, very within the realm of possibility. And maybe it's just the fact that he uses a lot of science jargon that is simple and accessible. So, I'm no physicist or astronomer, but the words make enough sense. The explanations make just enough sense for me to buy that. Yeah, if this were happening in the real world, Mr. Ryland Grace seems like a pretty good choice to start. How about you, though?
What I mean, like
How
on
do you feel
top
about
of
that?
yeah, I think that. Oh my gosh, that's the wrong way. Sorry, the light is spilling in from the gods. Did you see the like?
I did.
I just got blinded with golden rays of sun.
Well, it's because you're in the spotlight.
It's because I'm in the spotlight. Yeah, that's so nice. Well, thank you. No, it worked for me, I think, and I was trying to figure out why. I was preparing for this episode, and I had to really sit down and process. There's a lot of things that I can very easily ignore, things that would be unbelievable that I have no problem just sweeping to the side. And I think it has to do with Ryland Grace as a character and as a narrator because he's just so lovable. Like he's just such a fun personality to go along with. And it ties very neatly, I think, into your comment on his simple language. Because he's a school teacher, because he's so used to talking in a certain way in which everybody understands, he does that very naturally for the reader. And it just makes sense and it tracks. It seems like something the character would actually do. His simplified explanations are motivated by his backstory, by his passion. And I found that really redeeming, I think, for a lot of the aspects of the narrative, especially with him being whisked away. It made sense because Grace is kind of like whimsical. He's he's he goes,
Such a
I love
nerd.
kids, so I
Such a
left
nerd.
academia to go teach some kiddos, not high school, not college, not like community college, no, middle schoolers, the worst of them, the worst of the worst middle schoolers. He went to go teach them, and so because we see that jump backwards, it was just not as difficult for me to justify the jump upwards. Um, but yeah, I mean, the way he writes about science, I think a lot of authors try to simplify it for the reader, make it feel kind of unrealistic, kind of corny, or they just go so hard into the practical, the other side to make it so realistic that it's really difficult for audiences to follow, where you basically have to be an astrophysicist to understand anything at all. But Weir does neither. I think he pulls the reader up to the science itself, but instead of feeling lost, you feel like you're right there with Grace and you feel just as smart as him because he talks you through the process in a way that naturally connects the dots for the reader. And it I don't know, it tricked me into thinking I'm good at science and liking science. It was cool. I
Yeah,
was
right.
really really impressed. I was really impressed. So did you feel that same way, or why do you think that Weir's science is so just so accommodating? I think.
I like the point that you made. I didn't make that observation that the his backstory kind of warrants or justifies the prose, and it makes it accessible for us to read because this is very like high level science. Physics, astronomy. These are the big leagues, and yet the whole time I've been reading this book, I haven't really felt the need to look anything up. Everything makes sense. Um, you couldn't ask me to explain it, of course, but
Yeah.
but it doesn't lose me. I understand the line of reasoning. I understand what he's doing, why he's doing it, and yeah, no, I like what you said. That it almost makes you feel like you're a scientist too, and it makes it so accessible, and it also like intrinsically, um, you know, it intrinsically expands on the character. It makes him more realistic. You do by the fact that he's a teacher, like you said. He's so used to explaining stuff to kids in an easy and accessible way that it doesn't feel like it's just the author trying to dump things down for you. And it's just nice. It's been very whimsical, very fun, very optimistic. I like that he doesn't
Mhm.
really curse. He says heck a lot,
Yeah.
and he
Dude,
he
he's a
he gets
teacher.
excited
Teachers don't
about
curse.
really silly things, which is awesome.
No,
And yeah,
it
I
gives him a
mean,
lot of character.
mhm. And it just adds this layer of optimism to the book, especially with the alien.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right here. There's so much optimism, right? And it's from the very beginning to the very end. Even whenever he learns that the Earth is going to die, that the astrophagy,
Astrophage.
astrophage is that? Did you figure phage? Do we? What is that?
It's
Phage?
it's a phage because phage. I do know this from science. Phage is a like an eater. Like a phagocyte is a cell that eats. So an
Wow.
astrophage is a
This
cell
is why
that
you're
eats.
here, North. This is why you're here.
Dude, yeah, dude, I am the
Astrophage.
physicist.
I told you, you were the science guy. This is your.
Oh, don't worry. Someone in the comments is gonna correct my pronunciation.
Actually, it's astrophagy. No, astrophage.
Astrophage.
Okay, so that's great.
Oh,
Astrophage. Where was I? Oh yeah, because the astrophage is eating the sun. That's bad news, real bad news. And they go all doom and gloom about how like everything's gonna die. And Grace seems relatively unaffected by it. And his explanation is, if I remember correctly, he basically says, "Well, I still got to go to work. I still got to teach. They don't really tell you that part of Doomsday. You still have a job." And I think he goes a little bit into like during World War II and during other tragedies, people still have to go to work, and I love that. There's a lot of small, really impactful, very insightful comments in this book about the world in crisis, and he goes through it all in such a happy way. And I wanted your thought. Is that a misstep to make this so optimistic? Is that the wrong choice? Because it seems like there are some dire consequences, and we're dealing with isolation, right? For at least a bit until he meets the alien. Um, but he seems relatively unaffected by the isolation, and he sheds a tear every once in a while for his partners, but he doesn't really know why. So it's not like we care. So,
mhm.
in what is your opinion on that? Does the optimism work against some of the deeper themes of the book, or is it overall like additive?
I think I think it's gonna come into play later in the book. You know, he still hasn't really, at least in the flashbacks, he still hasn't met his crewmates. He still hasn't really talked about them. He remembers them. He remembers some of their quirks. And he's in a constant state of like suppression. Like he's suppressing those feelings, denying himself the memories, right? He tries not to think about them. Um, and I do think as the stakes get higher, as him and Rocky get closer and closer to figure out this astrophage thing, as the end of the mission approaches, the finality of the mission, because it is a suicide mission. It's a one-way
Mhm.
trip. at least as far as we're concerned, right? Um, he knows he's gonna die. He's doing this for humanity, knowing that he's gonna die. Um, if that doesn't come into play, then this book will miss out on something really, really profound. You know, they're I think the story will naturally lead to that. Uh, so in the moment, right now, we're halfway through the book. I think the optimism is warranted. I do think we are getting
Bro
very,
man,
very
aliens.
close. Yeah, I think we're getting very, very close to that breaking point,
Mhm.
especially as you know, where we left off, his interactions with Rocky get a little bit more sad, more personal. You know,
Yeah.
Rocky also lost a lot of crewmates. He lost 23 because he did
Did
not
not
know
understand
about
radiation.
radiation, and that is so sad. That is so sad.
Yeah, and I think it's now probably a good time to talk about Rocky. He's
Rocky,
floating through space looking for the signature of the Petrovna. Is that what it is? Yeah.
the Petrova line.
Petrovna, yeah, that one. He's looking for that, right? And he sees this bright light that comes towards him, and all of a sudden there's a massive ship right there. And I was giddy. Like I had seen part of the trailer for the movie beforehand. I didn't read the back of the book. I tried to like go in fully blind because I think both of us missed the main wave with the book where most people were
Mhm.
reading it. And so I was lucky enough to not get spoiled on much beforehand. So while I knew that there were aliens in the book, it was still so exciting. Like I was giddy. Like I was just seriously, I couldn't put it down because I wanted to see who these aliens were just as much as Grace did. And whenever we met them, I was not disappointed. I mean, at first I was like, oh, it's a rock. That's sick. But the more they interacted and the more we started to uncover not only the mystery of, you know, who Grace is and what he's doing there, but also who Rocky is, it was exciting. Like I was really interested in all the science stuff they were doing to learn more about each other. So I, how did you take the discovery of aliens? Do you think it was too far fetched that they're so friendly and they're so happy? At least so far, right? I think there's always the possibility that things turn sour, but I kind of feel like this is a good thing. It seems to me like it is going to be a more optimistic side, at least with Rocky, that like we met aliens and aliens aren't human, you know? They're happy and wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be my disposition. Um, I love the fact that it was so optimistic, and I think this is like my one pet peeve with like alien sci-fi, that it always portrays the aliens as like beasts or animals that are hell bent on destroying and dominating. And you know, yeah, you could argue that humanity is also like a war civilization, you know, like a warring civilization that wants to dominate everything. I guess you could say that. But at the same time, we are creatures that are always in the pursuit of knowledge, and we're trying to make sense of the world around us. And I really do think that at least most scientists fall more in line with Ryland, where if there's alien life, that's not scary. That's pretty awesome. It completely shatters everything you knew about the universe. Um, and it just opens so many doors. You know, like I can totally see scientists doing these like little games that Ryland and Rocky did to try to figure each other out, especially the language aspect of it and understanding like their physiology, you know, like all those things. Um, I think that's one thing we don't really talk about with science, you know. Science is always this like clinical, sterile, empirical thing, but it's also kind of like a puzzle. You're just trying to make sense of the
Mhm.
world around you. You're trying to figure out how everything works. And I think Andy Weir does that really well. He's able to convey that part of science. And yeah, no, it just makes you want to be a scientist. And I think aliens are cool. So I like the
I
optimistic side of
I also
this.
think aliens are cool. I mean, my favorite depiction of aliens is ET, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's funny because in that situation, they got away with depicting ET as so wholesome and friendly because the first person he interacted with was a little boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think most of our depiction of aliens has to do with like it's a reflection of ourselves in a lot of ways because, you know, what did Christopher Columbus do when he arrived in the Americas? Well, you know, he enslaved people, right? What did the conquistadors do? They conquered. So I think it's more so a reflection on what people would do if they discovered somebody weaker than them, because that's what we've always done. Um, and the reason this works, especially in the like situation, the context in which they meet aliens, is it is a scientist meeting. I guess he's an engineer, but you know, he's a scientist. He's an astronaut. He's in space. And because of those specific circumstances, you have two parts of the civilization that only seek to understand. And that's why it works. Because I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some other, I don't remember the name of the Rockies, but one of the other Rockies,
The Iridians.
Iridians, yes. If one of the
Yeah.
other Iridians came up that wasn't a scientist, that was instead a politician or a commander or something, I mean, it would not surprise me, and nor would it frustrate me if he was hostile, if he was angry, aggressive, afraid, right? And I think what makes scientists special and what makes science special is it takes the fear of the unknown and transfers it into curiosity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this depicts that brilliantly. And it makes complete sense. And so it's kind of like ET, though. You know, ET makes sense because it's with a child. So ET is kind of like a child meeting another child. This makes sense because it's a scientist meeting another scientist. Whereas most alien films are the entirety of civilization meeting the entirety of alien civilization. But in the microcosm, it's wholesome.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on two things. Uh, First, you know, we have this image of the scientist as someone who knows everything already, when in reality, a scientist is someone who acknowledges the fact that we know very little, and so they're constantly questioning everything. Uh, and there is like a quality of fear and doubt in that, but conversely, there's also that curiosity, that sense of awe and wonder. You know, when we're kids, we're constantly in awe and wonder of everything around us, even the simplest of things, right? And the scientist is just someone who is able to maintain that for the rest of their life, right? And the other thing is that it is our very human behavior to project ourselves onto the world, right? We see what we want to see. That is something that I think everybody keeps discovering time and time again. Uh, we see what we want to see, and we tend to project our qualities onto the world. So it totally makes sense that ET, you know, his first encounter is a child. A child is innocent. ET, also innocent. In the Predator movies, at least as far as I know, it's usually the military that comes in contact with the predators, right?
Mhm.
Um, you have Superman. Superman comes in contact with two really down to earth, very humane
Ayo, down to earth. Yeah.
parents, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're constantly seeing this, you know, projection, and so it's really nice that you have a scientist here making the first encounter with alien life, and it really tickles my brain that the other alien is also a scientist or you know an engineer, and he's equally as nerdy as Ryland in
Yeah.
his own in his own unique way, right? Um, in his own 300-pound metallic sort of way. That's crazy. It's wild.
Yeah, the descriptions of not only the Iridian like culture, but the shell, the spaceship, the materials, it felt uniquely alien. Um, yet not terrifying. A lot of that has to do with the types of descriptions and the way it's described, because it is in such a curious tone, in such an exciting tone. It's not like, oh, I don't understand this, therefore I'm afraid. It kind of goes into what we've been talking about, and he continues that very well. Like whenever he wanted Grace to watch him sleep, I it was
Absurd.
really sad. It turned into a really depressing moment when you realize, oh, it's because everybody else is dead that would usually watch him sleep. So that was really sad. And I got to say, Rocky right now is the emotional core of the story for me. I feel most emotionally attached to the thing that's not human, and that's kind of a natural human instinct for some reason to latch onto the non-human thing. But I
Yeah, we
really don't
tend
want him to
to
die.
anthropomorphize other life. Yeah, that's crazy. I think I think I'm on the same boat as you. Rocky is so adorable, uh, and so human. He has like he's for like something that I think is described as like a spider, a 300-pound rock spider, right? With
Yeah.
mercury for blood. It's crazy. He's very relatable. He still shows fear. He still shows sadness. Um, he drops like an octave, right?
Yeah.
When he's feeling emotion. Um, and I like the way they repeat the same word 3 times to emphasize something.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
he
they
emphasizes
create
words like
their
sad, sad, sad,
they
right?
created their own little like way of speaking to each other, and I was really fascinated by not only how Rocky tried to fix his syntax in order for Grace to understand, but how Grace similarly started speaking in a different way for Rocky to best understand. I really do wonder what kind of research he went into to figure out like translation linguistics and communicating with a different person for the first time when you have no knowledge of how they speak. Because that was really cool to see him figure it all out, and to see the progression of just communication and personality was so cool.
No, yeah, and what particularly sticks for me is the fact that they're using science as the common ground, right? They're using units of measurement to make connections, right? So it, it I don't know, it's kind of fascinating. It really tickles my brain again in a very satisfying way. They're using like the measure of time, the measure of mass, the the periodic table, right? They're using like how many protons are in this element, and from that they are able to create this whole language so that they can understand each other, um and hopefully tackle this issue of the astrophage, uh
I I
which
think that comes to honestly like the core loop of this book that is so satisfying, and the reason why it's so hard to put down. Like I was legitimately kind of grumpy. I had to stop reading at chapter 15 because I finished it on Friday. I was like, I was just so in the zone. Like I was just so eager to read more. And I think the key here is there's a solving loop. There's a problem solving loop where the reader's given a problem, right? Something we don't understand, something that's going wrong, and we solve it. And then there's a new problem, and we solve it. A new problem, we solve it. And usually the thing that we solve causes new questions and new problems. And it's this constant loop throughout the book that every time, and I mean, obviously the stakes and the problems are getting bigger and harder, and it's just, it feeds into itself so well, where the pacing allows for the reader to always get that dopamine boost, I think, where there's always something happening. We always feel like there's progress because he's solving something, because he's doing something. But like, I mean, he hasn't made any progress towards his main goal, and we're halfway through the book, right? He hasn't touched at all how to fix this. We have no idea. But there's a lot of fun things along the way that make it so entertaining to read. Like, don't get me wrong. I have faith in the book that it's going to end well. Like, I have faith that it's going to be a really satisfying ending because so many people rate this so highly. But if this had just came out, like this just came out, it could screw up the ending so bad and make it so unsatisfying, and take something that was really entertaining and kind of ruin it at the end. But I don't think that's going to happen because, first of all, I think Andy Weir is a really good author. Second of all, a lot of people like it, so I assume it has to be pretty good at the end. But still, I don't know. Did you kind of sense that cycle? Did you feel like the problem solving, itch getting scratched, like you were solving puzzles constantly?
Yes, it is the. I like the way you phrased it. The loop, right? It is a loop, but it's also Archimedes' lever, right? It's a small step. You solve a couple of tiny steps, and then eventually you will solve the bigger problem. And I think that is a very big thing in science. You always try to break things down, and I think, well, everybody loves this book. This is a really high rated book. Um, People who don't normally read books really enjoy this book, right?
we talk
So,
about
so the
Hugo?
ending
We
has
talk
to be
about our friend?
satisfying. I am totally talking about our friend Hugo, by the way.
Yeah, our friend Hugo is like, I'm so excited. He's commenting on every post, being like, I can't wait to reread this for the.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
I'm confident this is going to end in a very satisfying way. Andy Weir just has that scale.
Did you read The Martian? Did you read his other book, or is this your first Andy Weir book?
I'm looking at it right now. I have a bookmark on the halfway mark. So I did stop reading that. I think I was still in college and I got busy with life. Um, I liked it. I liked what I read. It has the same prose style. It's very easy and accessible to read, and it makes you feel smart. I also watched the movie, and the movie was great.
I do think, though, the
But
main difference between The Martian and this one, though, is there's a lot of other layers here. I think that one was a bit simpler. It was a survival story, and that's all it was. And I know technically this is a survival-ish story, even though we don't think he's going to survive. But it feels like something so much more. He took this, really satisfying loop that he discovered in The Martian and applied it to something that's a lot more meaningful, other than this guy's on Mars and let's get him home, which is, a noble effort. It was really good. But this feels, there's a lot of other themes here. And one of them I really wanted to talk about is sacrifice across the board. Not only Grace, knowing that this is a suicide mission, but we're halfway through the book and there's this possibility that's been, rattling around in my brain that Grace didn't volunteer or offer to go on the mission, but was instead put on the mission. I really hope that's the case, because I think that'd be really fascinating if he didn't want to do it and they did it anyways. If they basically knocked him out and put him in the coma. Which seems right in line with Strat, right? Strat's her name. Right in line with her character, and would be a really, I think, satisfying conclusion for her story. Satisfying in the way of it's dark, but it fits and it feels like the right move for her. So that's what's been rattling around in my brain. And that comes to, what are you willing to sacrifice for humanity? You're willing to sacrifice the ice caps. You're willing to sacrifice Africa. You're willing to sacrifice all of humanity's power. You're willing to sacrifice so much, and which logically the next step would be, you're willing to sacrifice your friend, right? And so I guess the question here would be how much is humanity worth? Is that justifiable? Because I think in the eyes of Strat, obviously it is. And I think they're doing a really good job of painting the justification for it. Not to necessarily say that this is right, because they do a really good job of showing how painful it is of a process for everybody. But what is it all worth, right? I mean, I immediately think back to, this is a real hot take. I think it's Clash of Gods. Is that what it's called? This is a really deep.
So the movie?
This is a really, yeah. I think is that what it is. There's Clash of the Titan. Is it Clash of the Titans?
Clash of the
I think
Titans.
it might be
Clash
Clash of the Titans. Is it in Clash of the Titans? I might be wrong. It might be one of the sequels for Clash of the Titans. It might not be Clash of the Titans at all. But there's this one plot line of like the town wanting to sacrifice this
Wrath
girl
of the
because-
Titans.
Is it Wrath of the Titans?
Yeah.
Is it the sequel? I think it might be Wrath of the Titans. It's a really deep pull, I know. But I distinctly remember this arc where you had the town wanting to sacrifice this girl, and eventually, I forget who it is. Like I think it's some citizen who stands up and finally says, "No, this is wrong. We can't force this woman into killing herself in order to save all of us. That's wrong, no matter the cost, right?" And I think I would share his view, but also it's not so simple. And this book does a great job of showing how not simple it is. Because where do you draw the line?
Yeah, no, I yeah, that's a heavy question, right? And I do
Bro,
wonder
this is
how,
good. I hope
Weir's
this is
gonna
a heavy
answer.
book. I hope this is a heavy book.
But I like that you brought up the ice caps, because that was such a profound scene for me. It made me it really really conveyed the stakes of this mission, because the temperature is changing by 1 degree, which seems insignificant as a number, but it has huge catastrophic effects, right?
Let it be known
And
here at Novels and Nightcaps, we believe in climate change. I'll say to
we
the
believe in
world,
climate. We do. We
we
do. We
believe
believe
in.
in climate change, guys. We believe in climate change.
I give a pledge to believe in climate change.
I pledge to believe in climate change. The climate's always changing. Duh.
Always changing.
So yeah, that scene where they nuke Antarctica is, and all they hear is like thunder, like faint, distant thunder. And yet it's gonna change the world. But it's a necessary change. It doesn't fix anything. It just saves it gives you more time, right? And the ultimate sacrifice ultimately comes down to Ryland, right? He's the one on this mission. He's the only one left. He is humanity's last hope. Is it his choice? I'm also on the I'm also of the idea that it's not his choice. At least right now, he keeps talking about the astronauts who are going on this mission as, yeah, that they'll have to make the sacrifice. It's a sacrifice they'll have to make. He's very much not even thinking about the fact that he's going to be the one on this mission. I am really looking forward to the scene where he is given this choice, if he is given this choice, right? Of like, hey, we need you. Like where we left off, he just took the test for the gene marker, right?
Yeah,
To
they
see if
like
he
privately
could
took it, and
survive
it
the
didn't seem
coma.
like a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really excited. I have seen the trailer, and the trailer, at least, it hits on this theme that I haven't seen so far in this book. And it's this theme of like of self-doubt, right? He doesn't really believe in himself, at least in the movie trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And yet everybody kind of does. And it really conveys that sense of duty and responsibility, and the burden, the weight of the world is on his shoulders. So I'm really looking forward to how it all unfolds.
Yeah, I think burden is a good way to put it, because it seems like he's distracting himself from the burden a lot, especially with this new alien, which is kind of an excuse. And we're hitting a turning point now in the book where, okay, he's learned more about the alien. Now it's time to dive in. Now it's time to solve
Yeah.
the problem. He has a
Rocky
new
moved in
roommate. Yeah, Rocky moved.
with all his stuff.
Oh, you're so good. And you
All
compared it
his
to his
stuff.
ex-girlfriend. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Um, Yeah, no, so Rocky moved in with his little space bubble, his magnets, and now they're ready to do
Oh.
science. I I like how like all of the big science fictiony things he steadily explained, like gravity at first, because I was wondering like gravity. I knew he was in space, but whenever he was first doing some tests and stuff, and he knew that the gravity was like heavier, than on Earth, I immediately thought maybe he was on a different planet and like I didn't know what was going on. Like I was like, maybe like I don't know, like there's some sort of big gravitational pull from something I'm just not aware of. So that was a really cool explanation. I mean, it makes sense. I've known that as like an explanation that like is a centrifuge. I don't know, not centrifuge.
The centrifuge, yeah.
Spinny thing.
Yeah, the
Thing goes
centrifuge.
spin. Thing spin. Make guy stand. So I knew about that, and it made sense. And yeah, I don't know. I have this sad feeling though that Rocky is going to die. There's no way Rocky makes it to the end, man. Poor Rocky. There's no way, right? Do
I'm
you think
really
Rocky?
afraid.
I
I really, really hope that this really is a suicide mission, Like this really is a one-way trip. I don't know. I don't know.
I have
I keep
this.
reading and I keep thinking that Rocky is gonna leave. Like I do think he's gonna live this through.
I have this happy
And
little feeling that this like little tiny happy little like memory in my head that Grace is going to go with Rocky back to the Iridians and live happily ever after.
but then there's the difference in atmosphere.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. They're
It
smart.
doesn't matter.
Aliens are
Yeah,
smart.
he wouldn't be crushed to death
No, they make big bubble for him.
as soon as
Big
he
bubble
lands.
for Ryland Grace. I mean, have you seen like pretty sure it was Venus? The Soviets landed like a satellite, not a satellite. They landed something on Venus, like a probe, and it took like one image, like one little photo, and then got crushed immediately. So and
Yeah,
that's
no gravity
Venus,
will do that
right?
for you.
Yeah, the pesky
Have
gravity.
you seen
All
those videos on TikTok or Instagram with like like car car crashes in different planets?
no.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you some
Dude,
later.
you have such a
Um,
wild wait. That's your feed is car crash. I have just I looked up way too
like
many things
simulations,
about.
like
I was looking up meme formats for Red Rising, and now it's all there is on my feed is just like edits of Red Rising. It's so annoying, and I can't. I love Red Rising's great. I can't get it off my feed. It's like Cassius Abelona, and then it's like a line from the book read by AI, and that's my whole feed. It's jacked. I don't know how to fix it. But anyways, yeah, car crashes on different planets is sick. So yeah,
yeah, dude.
I think that I really hope we do get to explore this question of sacrifice and some of the. I mean, I don't expect him to answer any of these deep philosophical questions. I mean, I don't think books usually should. I think books do a better job of asking the questions, not answering them. And so far, I think he's doing an excellent job of masking some profound questions with an otherwise incredibly entertaining and easily digestible book. Like I really am surprised that this is able to happen because you look at books like, I mean, I guess one of the books on my TBR that I really want to read, but I know is a daunting task is Hyperion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And from what I understand, it's one of those books that you can get a lot out of, but you have to put a lot in. Whereas this, I feel like I'm getting a good amount out of without having to put like any effort into it. Uh, and that's kudos to a good storyteller, of course. But I'm excited to see Ryland Grace's, his real breakdown and what that looks like. Is it a question of self doubt? Is that his breaking point? Is it I don't want to die? Is it the real fear of the sacrifice? Is it like what is it? What is going to happen? Because it's clear he thinks humanity is worth saving. It's not a thing of like, do they deserve it? That's not it at all. It's very clear,
Mm-hmm.
like humanity needs saved, and I'm here to do it. And I was surprised because I figured when he met an alien there would be some of those questions. And maybe there was, and it was just really subtle, and I kind of missed it. But I expected more of a criticism of his own humanity. Uh, but instead, he was very scientific about it. He was not very philosophical about it. He was very like practical about what it all meant. But there was one
No,
line that I
either.
think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say either he's really self-actualized or he's just in heavy, heavy denial right now.
And I mean,
But yeah,
either way, there's this one line that I think sums up the core of this book, and it's human beings have a remarkable ability to accept the abnormal and make it normal. And I believe that line was from whenever he started just getting into a rhythm with Rocky, and he just was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the little corridor to meet my alien friend." And he realized that that's just okay with him now. Like he's not nervous about it. And I think this is true. And it's one of those little commentaries that Weir sprinkles throughout the book that are really deep, and have a lot more to say that he kind of brushes past, and not in I think it's a purposeful brush past, right? He's not trying to really sit on it too long, but I mean, I immediately think to like school or work. That first day, you're always so nervous. You're like panicked. Is anybody going to like me? What's going to happen? Fear of the unknown sort of deal, right? You're just wondering all of the bad things that could go wrong. Yet it only takes like a week, maybe two, for things to settle into normality and normalcy, whatever. A
normal
state
state. Yeah.
of a state of normal norm. You understand?
I
Nor
get what
take
you're
it
saying.
away. Yeah. Interpret.
We have a tendency to adapt quite easily. I mean, I saw it this week alone. My little brother, my younger brother, he started not middle school. So he
Dude, I was
started
about to panic. I was like, no way.
what?
No.
What's the one that comes before middle school? I'm blanking right now.
Elementary
Intermediate?
school. Elementary
No,
school?
no, no. Between elementary and middle school.
Junior high.
No, that's middle school.
Oh, is that
I think it's
upper
intermediate.
elementary school,
Anyway, he's a
intermediate
fifth
school,
grader, right?
intermediate. Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird, bro. Okay.
he's a fifth grader, and he had to
He can
take the
almost
bus the
vote.
other
That's
day,
crazy.
and
Oh,
he can almost.
dude.
He's halfway there at least.
It's almost a matter of time.
Anyway, and we live like a block away from the elementary school, so he never took the bus, and now he has to take the bus, and he was really nervous. And then he took the bus, and now that's the new normal for him. And same with his swimming lessons, right? He was scared of swimming, and now he knows he chases after the pool, right? He loves the pool now. And like you said, starting school, starting college, moving to a new place, starting a new job, making a big decision that will completely change your world. It's very scary. And yet, when you look back, you can't even remember a time before the change. We drive automatically now, but it was very weird. It was very alien when we first started, right? So
Yeah.
I really think Andy Weir hit the nail on that one quality that makes us one of the many qualities that makes us human, right? We adapt
Yeah.
very
And I
easily.
think it is so much more clear because of the ludicrous circumstances that surround it. Because he's meeting an alien, because he's so used to meeting an alien, it's obviously like he discovers something so obvious about humanity that I think that we don't appreciate enough, right? Because your next 24 hours don't seem so scary when you realize it's just your next 24 hours and you have a lot more time after that, hopefully. Let's hope.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's your new normal unless you die, so there's that. But it just felt very motivational, very powerful to take take chances, make some bold choices, because at the end of the day, you can and will like adapt to fit those circumstances. So yeah, I thought that was a really fascinating quote that immediately stuck out to me, and I grabbed onto it and wanted to share because I think it is a example of something we see throughout the book a lot, where he takes very complex ideas and makes them simple to understand, whether it be with science, with philosophy, with just life in general. He does a really good job of it. All right, before we check off here, do we have any final thoughts? We're going to read the last half of the book for our next episode. So if you're listening along with us, go ahead and finish the book out. We'll be here again and we'll finish it out, and we'll put the full review in that one as well. So we'll give our ratings, we'll do all that. And just to be clear, this is our final book. We're going to break into sections like this. So this book is the final one. We're going to break into like part 1, part 2. From here on out, it's just going to be the full review. So we'll talk about the themes of the book much like this, but we'll have the full book read ahead of time, because that way, you can listen in and get the entirety of the book in one sitting and not have to wait for us to read it. So it makes it a little bit easier for everybody else. And we'll intersperse some other content as well. But Nora, do you have any other thoughts, any final hopes, any dreams? What are you looking forward to with this book?
Yeah, no, I am looking forward to the breaking point. I'm curious as to what that is. I want to know the fate of Rocky and Ryland. I want to know if they make it out alive. I kind of really hope Ryland doesn't. I really want it to be, a one-way trip. This is a sacrifice. I think aside from that, I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about. I'm really
if you
eager to
enjoyed the
finish
show, yeah, me too. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. It helps more than you know. But Nora, did you manage to finish your drink this time, or are you still working on it?
I'm almost there. Almost there.
Yeah, finish it off. Let's go, because here at Novels and Nightcaps, we finish our drinks. Everybody have a good night.